The time is precisely 6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Rumesh Piris. First, the headlines. The Prime Minister says the first round of discussions with the International Monetary Fund has been a success. Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Labour promote foreign employment. Litrogas Company says its gas ship will further delayed. The Cabinet approves a proposal to waive off unpaid loans obtained from state banks by paddy farmers. Another man succumbed to death whilst waiting in a fuel queue. In news overseas, Finnish researchers installed the world's first fully working sand battery. In sports, it's cricket. Sri Lanka strengthens spin bowling ahead of the second test against Australia. Now let's take a look at the news in detail. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe told Parliament today that the first round of discussions with the International Monetary Fund has been a success, but the assistance depends on the debt restructuring program which Sri Lanka has to come up with. Making a special statement in the House, Mr. Wickremesinghe said Sri Lanka will hand over a debt restructuring program report to the IMF in August this year. He said the economy is shrinking and they are trying to reverse it. According to central bank statistics, the current economic growth rate is between -4 and -5. According to IMF statistics, it is between -6 and -7. This is a serious situation. The Prime Minister said if a determined journey is made along the roadmap, the country can achieve an economic growth rate of -1 by the end of 2023. By 2025, the aim is to create a surplus in the primary budget. The effort is to raise the economic growth rate to a stable level. The expectation is to establish a stable economic base by 2026. The total debt burden of the government at the end of 2021 was 17.5 trillion rupees, and by March 2022, it has increased to 21.6 trillion rupees. The Prime Minister said this is a real situation and people are facing the effects of many problems that have worsened in the past 2 to 3 years. These are not problems that can be solved in 2 days, he said. Therefore, the Prime Minister said people have to face difficulties in 2023 as well. He said the plan is to control inflation. By the end of this year, inflation will rise to 60%. In 2023, country will have to print money with restrictions on several occasions. Prime Minister Wickremesinghe said by the end of 2024, the intention is to stop printing money completely. The aim is to reduce the inflation rate to between 4 to 6% by 2025. Professor JUL Piris and Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manusha Nanakara, during a meeting held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs yesterday, discussed possible avenues for promotion of foreign employment and mechanisms that could be introduced to address the bottlenecks in promoting foreign employment. The meeting was followed by a virtual meeting hosted by the two ministers with the participation of the heads of Sri Lanka missions of the labour receiving countries and the officials of the Ministry of Labour and Foreign Employment and Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment. Foreign Minister Piris emphasised that the Sri Lanka missions abroad have a prominent role to play in securing job opportunities for Sri Lankan workers and encouraged all the missions to proactively explore the potential within the framework of economic diplomacy, which is a key priority of the missions. Minister Nanakara highlighted that a special incentive scheme will be introduced shortly in recognition of the contribution of the migrant workers for the economy of the country. Litrogas Company says that a ship carrying 3,724 metric tons of liquefied petroleum gas, which was expected to reach the country between the 6th and 8th of this month, would be further delayed. The ship would be delayed due to changes in the weather conditions. The ship is now expected to reach the country on the 9th of this month. This LP gas shipment is scheduled to arrive in the island in accordance with the agreement signed between the World Bank and the Litrogas Company for the import of 100,000 metric tons of LP gas. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. We continue with more local news. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved a proposal to waive off unpaid loans obtained from state banks by paddy farmers who have less than 2 hectares. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, as the Minister of Finance, submitted the proposal to the Cabinet. Accordingly, the Cabinet has given approval to waive off the initial loan amount which has been obtained from state banks for paddy cultivation on lands of 2 hectares or less. The Colombo Commercial High Court today fixed for July 15 to deliver its order regarding the Attorney General's request to dismiss the case filed against the Russian Aeroflot flight. Additional Solicitor General Sumati Dharmavardhana PC, appearing for the Airport and Aviation Services Limited, moved court to reject the plaint since the Russian Aeroflot flight has left the territorial jurisdiction of the court. He moved court to dismiss the plaint in terms of Section 56 of the Civil Procedure Code since there is no cause of action to proceed with the plaint. The police said a 60-year-old man waiting in a queue to buy fuel at Tickle Road in Borella has died today. They said the victim was a resident of IDH area. Around 11 deaths related to fuel queues have been reported in several parts of the country as of now. The command of the Army, Lieutenant General Vikum Linage, has relieved the officer involved in the incident at Yagapitia petrol station of all of his duties with immediate effect until the 5-member Court of Inquiry recommendations are received. A parallel military investigation of the Sri Lanka Army Corps of Military Police about the incident is also underway. The Security Force Headquarters West yesterday appointed a 5-member Court of Inquiry headed by a brigade commander to probe deep into the issue related to the senior officer's conduct and make its recommendations. And that concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Cabinet Subcommittee, which was formed to look into cost of living earlier by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, was reappointed today. Addressing the weekly Cabinet meeting today, the spokesperson said the Cost of Living Committee will be responsible for tabling policy decisions and practical solutions pertaining to maintaining a stable cost of living to receive Cabinet approval. Accordingly, the 8-member Cabinet Subcommittee, headed by the President, was reappointed. And that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In Watchlight, focusing on the upcoming annual Export Awards, the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka officially launched the award application, opening up the gateway for exporters to apply. The Chamber is planning to conduct its 30th Export Award ceremony on December 2nd at Hotel Shangri-La, Colombo. The application closing date is 20th September 2022. For more details, applicants are requested to contact the Chamber through operations at nce.lk and Delaney on 011 434 4663. And that came to you in Watchlight. Moving on to a bulletin of world news, first the headlines. Finnish researchers install the world's first fully working sand battery. 50,000 are on evacuation alert after deluge hits Sydney. India bans service charge at hotels and restaurants. And now the world news in detail. Finnish researchers have installed the world's first fully working sand battery which can store green power for months at a time. The developers say this could solve the problem of year-round supply, a major issue for green energy. Using low-grade sand, the device is charged up with heat made from cheap electricity from solar or wind. The sand stores the heat at around 500 degrees Celsius, which can then warm homes in winter when energy is more expensive. About 50,000 people have been urged to evacuate their homes as flood hits Australia's largest city for the third time this year. Parts of Sydney have received about 8 months of rain in 4 days. Roads have been cut off, some houses are underwater, and thousands have been left without power. More than 100 evacuation orders have been issued across Greater Sydney for the emergency. India's Consumer Protection Authority has banned hotels and restaurants from levying a surcharge on bills. The order came after authorities said there had been an increase in complaints by customers being forced to pay the charge. Restaurants often add a 5% to 15% tip to a customer's bill under a service charge category. But new rules say restaurants can no longer add service charge by default or automatically to the bill. Back to the headlines of the world news. Finnish researchers installed the world's first fully working sand battery. 50,000 are on evacuation alert after deluge hit Sydney. And India bans service charge at hotels and restaurants. And that concludes World News. Moving on to development news. Axis Engineering is planning the completion of the 210-kilometer integrated road project in the Gampaha district of the Western Province by early 2023. The project, initiated by the Road Development Authority, aims to provide the much-needed accessibility required by communities in the rural areas of the district. And that was development news.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Moving on to sports news, Sri Lanka Cricket has bolstered their spin bowling option ahead of the second test against Australia in Galle on Friday, calling up uncapped spinners Mahesh Theekshana, Dunith Welladage and Lakshita Manasinga. The additions come after left-arm spinner Praveen Jayawickrama tested positive for COVID-19 last month, with a rapid antigen test administered after the player reported that he was feeling unwell. Theekshana and Welladage were part of Sri Lanka's ODI squad that beat Australia thrice in the 5-match series, while Manasinga was the leading wicket-taker in Sri Lanka A's 2 unofficial tests against Australia A last month. Of the 3, right-arm off-spinner Manasinga has the first-class record with 73 wickets in 17 matches at an average of 26.38. And that came to you in sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, fashion designer, CEO and founder of G-Flock, Ranil Vildarage, said the local clothing brand G-Flock will launch a mega campaign to launch their product globally, mostly targeting Sri Lankan diaspora. He said Sri Lanka currently is in great need for dollars, and marketing high-quality locally made apparels directly to the global market can fill part of this void very quickly. And that was business news.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
In economic news, tourist arrivals to Sri Lanka for the month of June totaled 32,856, recording a marginal increase when compared with the previous month. The June arrivals indicate a slight improvement in destination Sri Lanka despite the ongoing crisis. The data shared by the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority showed that the improvement in arrivals was due to the increased arrivals from Australia. Sri Lanka versus Australia T20 and ODI cricket matches was held in the country last month, while the Test match series is currently underway. And that was economic news. The weather report is next.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award, whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking. LOLC Finance will continue to innovate with the next generation digitalization of financial services, delivering a superior customer experience.
And finally, on to the weather report. The Met Department says showers will occur at times in the Sabaragamu province and in Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Galle and Matara districts. Several spells of showers will occur in the western and northwestern provinces. Showers or thunder showers may occur at few places in the Uva province and in Ampara and Batiklo districts during the afternoon or night. Strong winds about 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times in the western slopes of the Central Hills, western, southern and northwestern provinces. And that was the weather report. And to conclude this news bulletin, a recap of the main news headlines. The Prime Minister says first round of discussions with the International Monetary Fund has been a success. Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Labour promote foreign employment. Litrogas company says its gas ship will be further delayed. The Cabinet approves a proposal to waive off unpaid loans obtained from state banks by paddy farmers. Another man succumbed to death whilst waiting in a field queue. In news overseas, Finnish researchers installed the world's first fully working sand battery. And in sports, it's cricket. Sri Lanka strengthens spin bowling ahead of the second test against Australia. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.